Thanks. So yes, I'm the founder and the CEO of Lollyjar Circus. My background, what I once was a civil litigation lawyer. So I ran personal injuries cases and I worked on the huge marine land litigation that you will be too young to remember, but some might. I used to read a lot about accidents that had happened at people's work or in other places, and I used to think, it's so obvious that this accident was going to happen, why didn't people anticipate it? So I was quite interested in occupational health, safety and welfare. Then I got married, I had a stepdaughter and 5 other children, and they all went to circus training at Circus. So you can imagine I walked in the door and I saw kids skipping on huge balls and riding unicycles without helmets and hanging off trapezes by their toes, and I was pretty scared. I thought, well, no, you've got to let your kids do what they want to do and develop their own loves and their own sense of what is safe and what is daring. So they went along and they loved it. So at our house we have footprints across the ceiling wherever you look. We have gouges out of the kitchen from unicycles that go around in circles. I have a daughter who can't eat fruit just straight from the bowl to the mouth. She has to juggle it first and then eat it. And she juggles knives and she juggles fire. So you see, I've got over a few of my fears. One of the ways I got over my fears was while I was at Circus, I went on the board for a couple of years and I helped write them a safety manual, looking into past incidents and doing research with other circus bodies, finding out what accidents had happened, which are actually pretty few and far between, and working out ways to avoid them. And you can imagine that being the kid of the mum who wrote the circus school safety manual did not go down well with my kids. They were absolutely mortified. But in any event, what I really was doing was just writing down what happened in practice. So the information was passed on person to person. I just formalised it. So when my youngest child started at school, I volunteered on the organising committee of the Special Olympics National Games. So that meant 2 years of attending meetings and planning the games. There were over 1,000 people came from interstate athletes and their families and friends, 11 different venues. It was absolutely massive, and it was run by one paid person and the rest volunteers. A huge effort. But the highlight of it was the actual week of the games, when I saw all of the athletes and I saw grace, poise, ball skills, confidence, teamwork. I just was blown away by it. And the aha moment that led to Lollyjar Circus was when I walked in on the gymnastics venue and I saw a young lady with Down syndrome wearing a sequin-covered leotard, her hair in a bun. She looked absolutely gorgeous. She was poised, she was flexible, she had amazing balance, she performed beautifully, the applause was rapturous. And I just thought, why can't all of these wonderful athletes and the people that I've been seeing all this week have circus available to them as well? So I thought about it. I didn't rush into it. I brewed on it for a few years actually. In the meantime, someone very dear to me was diagnosed with schizophrenia and I had to help her through that. And it was a tough time for her and for us, and she's now settled and happy. But Lollyjar Circus was my reward to myself for getting through those years. It was something like an itch that I just had to scratch. I just had to do it, and it's not a burden to me. It's something that I truly wanted to do, and I get back much more than I give. So what it is a not-for-profit body that offers circus training to young people, including and especially those with physical and intellectual disabilities or who are socially at risk. So if you look at the pictures, you'll see we've got some young people with Down syndrome, some with autism, some with movement disorders, and they attend with their friends and their siblings who are able, and with some other young people who are able but have social issues. So they might have been victims of domestic abuse, or they may be fostered But we're all in together, all learning the same things. Tumbling, juggling, hula hooping, performing, everyone at their own level, and supporting and respecting each other. So I got the name Lollyglar Circus and the symbol from this idea of people of all different shapes, sizes, colours and tastes, all being in the same place, happily together like lollies in a jar. But the lid's off because we take the good feelings that we get at Lollyglar Circus bouncing out into the world with us at the end of the class. So my law degree actually came in very handy. We would not have been able to negotiate insurance cover to commence business if we hadn't had very comprehensive risk analyses and detailed safety planning. And there are a lot of forms to fill in to become a charity and to get tax deductibility. But why am I speaking at an event about arts and crafts? Well, circus is an art. It's like sport in that it involves training to improve your strength, your balance and your flexibility, but it differs from sport because it's not competitive. Some activities you do alone, some you do in groups, but the troupe as a whole tells a story that requires input from every single person. And one circus doesn't compete against another either. Each one has its own identity and it's a very supportive community. Circus is inspiring and entertaining. Performers contort into impossible positions, defy gravity, manipulate multiple objects at the same time, and make the spectators gasp and laugh. The sceneries, costumes and lighting and music may be minimal to throw the attention onto the performers, or they may be brilliant and part of the story. A circus school, as opposed to a circus, teaches circus skills to its participants, and it may or may not end up in a performance. Normal circus schools, if there is such a thing, are places where young people can be physical and creative at the same time. They're very welcoming places. Young people who don't enjoy mainstream sports appreciate the lack of competition, and young people who are creative enjoy letting go of their inhibitions. Some circus schools have separate classes for young people with disabilities or groups at risk, but we try to push the boundaries a little bit further. So all of our regular classes are fully inclusive. In other words, any young person with or without a disability, whatever their background, is welcome, provided that they can comply with our codes of conduct. And that's with the help of a family member or carer if necessary. We also hold outreach classes at mainstream and special schools, camps and events where the makeup of the group is determined by the group that booked us. Sometimes they are also inclusive places, such as Camp Capacity, which is for young people with muscular dystrophy and their siblings. So what do we actually do? As I said, we tumble, we have foam wedges and cylinders and vaults to support people, and very, very caring trainers and volunteers who have been trained to physically support or guide the participants depending on their abilities and their experience. So someone who comes to our classes who has a very severe movement disorder, we will help to place on the wedge and we will guide her in a roll down to the end of the wedge, whereas other people are up to handstands or cartwheels or flips. Everyone goes at their own pace and does what they can. We also juggle, and we were crafty in that in the beginning, as we had to start off with homemade juggling balls made from balloons filled with rice. We have make your own kits for sale on our stall over in the far corner if you're interested in them afterwards. Later we received a grant to purchase fabric juggling balls, and a little bit later we had a class with teenagers from the Guide Dogs for the Blind Transitions group, who are young adults leaving school, going out into the world, starting to get a bit of a social life, getting their confidence up. So we unstitched the bowls, took some of the filling out and put maracas in them so that they could hear them as they moved. We manipulate poi. So these are professional poi. Try not to hit anything. So this is what they do. actually not much room to do anything more specky than that, but these inside have very hard balls, like tennis balls. So we invented the sock boy, which is, as you can see, a sock, with a smiley, squishy ball, stress ball inside. Does the same thing, you can do all the same tricks, but it's shorter, so smaller people can use it. You can do it in a wheelchair, and if you donk yourself, it doesn't hurt. We also have them for sale over at our table if you're interested. We have flower sticks here. So this is one that gives instant gratification. I really love flower sticks. The easy tricks are really easy, the hard tricks are really hard. You can pick this up and make the flowers happen straight away. And you can pass them to the next person, or you can pass them over your head, or you can throw them and catch them. They're very, very tacky, so it's almost impossible to miss, almost impossible to drop. I can't do the really hard tricks, my daughter can. She can get this spinning around a stick, throw it into the air and catch it again, but I don't think I'll ever even try that one. But that can be done in a wheelchair, and it can be done singly or in groups. And obviously with any of these skills, if you want to move on to the harder tricks, it's better if you practice at home and you come to regular classes. The outreach classes, we focus on having a really good time, a lot of fun. But the regular classes, we can make more progress. So Lollyglar Circus trainers and volunteers learn as much as they teach. The first thing I learnt was to improve my language. People first, always. People are not disabled, they're not mentally ill, and they're not confined to wheelchairs. They're people first and foremost, with personalities, traits and skills, who have disabilities, illnesses, or use wheelchairs. The next thing it taught me was to welcome the unexpected and adapt. So in our classes, there are often strange noises and erratic movements. Some people want the music on, some people hate the music. Some people want the air conditioning on, some people hate the air conditioning. A lot of our equipment's got little bite marks taken out of it by some of our participants with autism. But our trainers and our volunteers go with the flow and just make sure everybody's happy. We have beautiful connections forming between the participants, often without words, just based on facial expressions and body language, and coming from a deep understanding and trust of each other. We have some humbling stories come back to us. I won't breach confidentiality by telling you details, but parents have reported to us huge improvements in their children's confidence, their social skills at school, and even their verbal skills. I have a nickname for Lollyglar Circus. I call it the little circus that roared, because we punch above our weight. We're fanatical about safety. We're members of lots of different circus forums, and Cirque du Soleil picked us up as its benefit partner for its recent tour of Totem. We weren't going to stage performances for a few years down the track, but we staged our first one within our first year, and we've now staged 3. We were in the Moon Lantern Festival a few weeks ago, and we have bookings all the way through to next year for outreach classes. So to finish, Lollyglar Circus was my dream, but I can't teach circus. I don't do accounts, I don't understand numbers at all. So I wrote a business plan, and I put together a sensational board of clever and generous people, including 2 accountants who oversee our development. We employ experienced trainers and upskill them yearly on disability. We reward our volunteers. It's not my dream anymore, it's a real thing, and it's a passion for many people that I expect to outlive me and grow and thrive across Australia, maybe even the world. We have a parent who comes to us from Laos, and she is planning to take the concept back with her when she returns home. So come over to us, have a play with our equipment, have some fun, relive your childhood or live it. And if you want to support us, you can do it for free by spreading the word or liking us on Facebook. But we run on the smell of an oily rag, so you can also support us financially by visiting our craft stall or making a tax-deductible donation, or even through sponsorship. Thank you very much for listening.